I want to talk a little bit about the methodology, because this is something that you quite frankly just figured out. And, you have a process, and this is something I'm very curious. It starts with the priests. You start with training priests and administrators in the diocese, and then parishioners. Why does it start with the priests?
Well, it didn't originally start with the priests. So the first, the book came, so 100-fold came out in 2015. Gave my first workshop in October of 2015. And it was just to priests and parishioners. And then I was basically going anywhere. This wasn't my plan. Hello, did we talk about that? None of this is my plan to do any of this. I'm a convert, right? This was, my plan was to be an expert only in raising my kids, and they would probably beg to differ. But anyway, so I was anywhere, anybody want me to talk, I'll talk. So I start talking and anywhere, but we noticed that there was some frustration from the laity. They would learn, they would come to my workshops and they'd be like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. Yes, I'm going to do that. They buy the book, they go to the website, they do all the things. And then they go back to their parish and their priest is like, we don't need that ministry. We don't need that committee. We don't need to, what? No, it's okay. Janice, I need you to do something else. I'm like, what? So after hearing that frustration over and over again, we figured out that I needed to get to the priests. I had to inspire them to, and with numbers, with statistics, with proving to them that this is really important. For example, saying things like, did you know that of the families that attend Mass regularly on Sundays, 30% of their kids have thought about being a priest or sister? Like, they don't know these things. They don't know that, oh, how about this one? That regularly, year after year, 2/3 of newly ordained say they first heard the call between birth and 18 years of age. And most of them between 6 and 13. So when they hear those kind of things, it goes, oh. And then I actually asked the priest to stand up. I said, okay, if you heard the call before 5 years of age, stand up. And there'll be one person, one priest who said, I mean, it happens, but it's rare, right? 6 to 13, here's this swath of priests standing up, and they look around and they're like, oh. And then I ask them, hey, were you inspired to be a priest by a priest? Raise your hand if you were inspired to be a priest by a priest. Almost all of them raise their hand. And I go, okay, so if that's the case, are you being that priest to anybody else? Are you taking that on and saying, I should be that inspiration for others? Anyway, it's through that kind of talking and challenging them and inspiring them. And I love them. I love the priesthood. Look, we don't have the priest. We don't have Eucharist. We don't have church. Pretty simple. Like, okay. So a lot of people say, Rhonda, you focus on the priests too much. And I'm like, really? Do you think I do? I mean, look, we don't have holy marriages or marriages at least striving for holiness. We won't have priests and sisters. So I get that. But guess what? There are a lot of lay-run organizations working on marriage. There are very few of us talking anything about the priesthood or religious life. So I am going to give them a lot of my effort to try to get more priests, more sisters, and focus on that.
And it tracks too. I mean, I haven't done the data analysis that you've done, but I've done about 100 plus of these interviews with religious every Thursday for the last couple of years. And the number one thing that comes up of, when they heard their call is they knew somebody in their community that was part of this order. And I always do the follow-up question. We're like, okay, you knew that person in that order, but when you found out you had a call to religious life, did you go exploring other communities? And a lot of them said, yeah, but like, that's where I heard the call. That's, that's where it was. And so they had not just, had an experience through another religious, but that specific community spoke to them through that person as well. And so I think it tracks from my witness in talking with religious as well. So going back to the priest, so I think it makes sense that they heard that call and you're reconnecting that call in their mind so that they can understand their impact. I think that's fabulous. What are a couple of things that a priest can do actively to start promoting these thoughts in young men and women about priesthood and religious life?
Well, typically, you know what you hear, when you hear a priest story, their testimony, when they arrive at a parish, the first Sunday they arrive at a new parish, they're going to share their testimony of, I grew up here and this is how I heard the call and la, 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 la. And then you don't hear it again until they move parishes. They're not going to share that story. So I say, hey, why don't we, share your story then, but then take bits and pieces of the story. Share how you were once a kid, just like the other kids who love to go to baseball games or play soccer, or you were in the band. You've got to talk about this more often than just the first time you get to a parish. And think everybody's already heard that. Or, ready for this one? I love this one. I get this all the time. They go, oh, Rhonda, but I don't have a good story. I don't have a good story. And I'm like, excuse me? Yeah, the Blessed Virgin Mary didn't come down and talk to me. And I'm like, excuse me? Is that our bar that we're getting to? So are we telling all the young people that the Blessed Virgin Mary has to come down and talk to them before they can answer a call? What? You got to tell them reality. You got to tell them, like, it was a stirring in your heart. You were restless. You started praying. You started going to mass more. You went to adoration. You got to tell them how did this happen? How did they find out what God wants them to do? So I'm trying to give them very practical but inspirational things to do. Not only is it sharing their testimony, it's sharing their joy. It's talking about vocations in general. It's implementing the vocation calendar. There's actually a calendar out there for vocations.
That's news to me. That's news to me.
So, for example, we put it together, Vocation Ministry, but for World Day for Consecrated Life. Like 99% of Catholics have no idea that February 2nd is World Day for Consecrated Life. They have no idea that there is a World Day of Cloistered Life. They don't know about Priesthood Sunday, or National Vocation Awareness Week, or National Marriage Week. They know Valentine's Day. They don't know there's actually World Marriage Sunday. So we put a calendar together. So asking the priest, could you put this calendar into the parish calendar so that you will be prompted to say something about consecrated life or cloistered life, or about being a priest and the joy of the priesthood, or World Day of Prayer for Vocations. Like, that's the big one. Just everybody's supposed to be praying for vocations. A World Day of Prayer for Vocations, the whole world.